again. I just realized that I only answered half of that mama's question, so I'm going to answer the second half here. Would I ever cap a nap? Yes, there are definitely times when I would wake a sleeping baby or suggest that you wake your sleeping baby, even though I know that doesn't sound very appealing. In my opinion, we always want to limit one sleep period to protect the next one. So let's say, for example, that I think it's a 5-month-old in this case, you know that your 5-month-old needs to catch one little cat nap before bedtime, but on a given day, the nap before that one runs so long or so late that there's no room to squeeze that in, and then bedtime is really hectic or rough for that reason. That's an example of what happened was one nap ran too long and we couldn't get the next one in, and it had a repercussion. So to prevent that in the future, I would say, well, I know that the nap prior to the final one needs to cut off at X in order for the Y nap to happen, and then for bedtime to fall in the right place. So that's an example of we'd want to limit that one to protect the fact that we could squeeze another one in. Another example is I would always cap the last nap to protect bedtime. If you found a sweet spot for your child's bedtime, then you always want to protect that or something very close to that. So it would be okay to wake them from that final nap to make sure bedtime stays and can happen in the right place. So I kind of apply that principle to all of the naps as your child's heading toward the transition to 2 naps and it's getting harder to fit those 2 in. That's an example of where you might limit the length of nap 1 and the ending time of nap 1, which I talked about earlier, to make sure that nap 2 can still happen so they don't take nap 1 and then spend the whole day awake until bedtime. And I would also wake a child each morning if you need to. Usually we don't need to, so that if you found a sweet spot for nap 1, you're protecting that your child is awake in the morning at a time that would allow nap 1 to fall in that ideal place. What I don't like to see is my child had a rough night, hence I let them sleep in as late as they wanted, hence naps are falling later on the clock than they should, so naps are kind of a mess, and then because naps were a mess, now they're going to have a hard night and they're going to want to sleep in again tomorrow. It can become a really vicious cycle. So we shouldn't be needing to wake our children very often, if at all, unless you're in the early stages of addressing sleep and everything's kind of a hot mess. Then you might need to wake a lot just to get their schedule more regulated. But once all said and done, they should be able to wake naturally and sort of distribute everything correctly, but you might need to intervene in some of those instances I mentioned. And even though it might not feel like the right thing to do, I give you permission. You can go ahead and do it because it does also often bring a much better result for the rest of the day and night.